You will very much appreciate, sir, the investment that you're making in your business. I was actually just telling Tawanta something. Uh, I said to her, so I've taken bold, God, probably like 12, 13 times, something like that. Okay. I've taken it probably 5 or 6 times as a leader, and probably another 5 or 6 times as an agent. And what my first bold coach was probably still my favorite. Okay. And I remember we were in the Roxy down in Buckhead, and I, didn't know anything about what bold was, and I had just dropped, $800 on it, and I was told that everyone that's successful goes to bold. So I said, well, shit, I'm successful, so I better go to bold, right? That was it was very simple for me. Hey, top performers do this. I said, well, I'm going to be a top performer, so I must do it, right? So within like 15 minutes of me being in the bold room for the very first time, the woman, the coach said something about, I forget exactly what the script was, but she taught a script and I learned it, right? And I went home that night and I used it on a prospect, a client, and I got the deal. And I said to myself, wow, I sat in that room for a couple hours, but it only took a minute, right? And I learned something that automatically put 10 grand into my account. Not to mention, I now have a relationship with somebody that, ongoing, that I'll have more opportunities from in the future. So um, I, I say all that to say Tawanda is leading the leaderboard right now. Okay, leading the leaderboard. Um, and what that means is that if she holds on to the #1 position, she will get a free ticket on me and Candace to Bold Local. I just want to remind you guys, it is Thursday. I'll only bring this up once today, but I have my coaching call with my coach Deb, who many of you guys met a couple months ago, today at 2 o'clock. And the first thing that we always talk about is, how your people doing? That's the first question she always says. How's everyone doing? Are your people making money? Are they having fun? Right? And so we look at the numbers, and as I was telling Tawantis a second ago, if we're behind on our numbers, we don't talk about the future. We talk about the past, right? And we don't get to have any fun. We talk about the past and why things aren't happening and stuff like that, right? So what I had told you guys is that if we hit our numbers as a group this month, our numbers are 100 appointments. Right now, we've reported 44 and 63 listings taken. Right now, we've reported 20. So 2 things. I'm going to ask you, #1, if you haven't reported, catch up, please. Okay. Just acknowledge where you are and let's make a commitment to get back on track. It is now the 20th of the month. So we could be and should be employing the 15th of the month protocol and or the 21st of the month protocol, which is a new plan to make certain that you're adding people to the database and the pipeline and booking appointments. So if we can hit our goal of 163, we'll buy another ticket to the second person. Okay, second person in the leaderboard. So right now the leaderboard has Atlantis as #1 and Heather Fowler as congratulations, guys. Okay, how we doing?
Good. Hey, can I ask you a question about this thing? I got an email about Step Up to Bold. There's some kind of meeting next Thursday from 9 to 10. Is that something, since I've already signed up for, do I need to consider going to this thing?
To be honest, I'm not sure what that is, but if they sent it to you and if they sent it to you because you registered, I'd go.
Okay.
Maybe it's orientation or something?
Yeah, I don't know.
What
let
they
me
what
see,
they said on the coaching call yesterday is Step Up to Bold is a precursor to Bold, but it's an hour of coaching.
Oh, okay.
So
Oh,
so
then
and
I
it's
would
and it's
definitely-
complimentary for everyone. So anyone can attend Step Up to Bold.
Oh,
Here
great.
we go. Yes, I am registered and I got the email, and that is May 27th at 9 o'clock. I would definitely be in that room.
All right, I'm there.
Definitely
Thanks.
be in that room. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay. What do you know? The #1 and the #2 people in our leaderboard are participating in the morning sessions. What do we know? Isn't that interesting? Okay. We have a guest on the call today. Does anyone want to know who the guest is?
Yes.
Okay. The guest is Caroline Kirkland. She is new to the Market Center, and hopefully and potentially, not to put any pressure on you, although I kind of did anyway, going to be joining the PC group. Do you want to say hello and introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi guys. I'm Caroline. I'm
Turn
trying to
on
figure
that
out my video.
now.
Sorry, what?
I said, turn on that video now.
I know I'm trying. I had it on a second ago.
Awesome.
There it goes.
All right,
Hi, guys.
welcome.
Welcome, Caroline.
Thank you.
All right, we got a
Nice
group
to be
here
here.
of a bunch of people that love seeing each other be successful. So hopefully we'll have an opportunity to work closely together starting now. Okay. Okay. So my meeting again, 2 o'clock, get those numbers in. And I will be adding the 50 points to those that posted their numbers before Monday's call. So with that in mind, does anyone want to share any cool news before we get started with the commission stuff? Anyone have any contracts signed lately? Anyone overcome any objections they didn't think they would overcome? Anyone win any multiple offer situations? Anyone got some new customers that they're flirting with? Okay, can I tell, Corey, can I tell a real quick story?
Do I have a choice?
Well,
I'm just
not
kidding.
really.
Of course. Yeah, I don't know what you're going to tell, but I'm
No,
not too worried. So.
okay, cool. So we're chatting with a longtime client of mine right now, and he made a couple of missteps, in my opinion, before he contacted me, including taking out a big loan from his 401k to buy a home before he sold the one he's living in now. He's buying out of the area, so I'm not helping him. But ultimately, he is facing a ton of stress that is clouding our ability to help him make smart choices, right? And I know him to be a very calm dude, right? Not somebody who's going to be stressed out at the things he's exhibiting stress at. So he is resistant to a lot of things that we've been talking to him about. And the idea here is that oftentimes we just have to ask a couple of extra questions to make sure that we know where they're coming from, right? So I asked this guy, Patrick, yesterday, I said, I gotta be honest with you, Patrick, you seem a lot more stressed out than you normally are, right? What's going on? What should I know about? What do I not know? What do I not know, right? And then out comes what I need to hear, right? Hey, I got this deadline to pay back this loan, or I have to pay this penalty, and this woman is stressing me out about this other thing, and I got this delay in the other closing, and all these things which really don't have anything to do with our long-term relationship or the value of his home are clouding his judgment. So if your customers are exhibiting some type of let's just call it unusual behavior, right? They're a little bit more reluctant to take action than you're used to, or they're scared, or they're nervous, or they've got around a lot of anxiety around kind of how this relationship is going. Don't be afraid to call them on it. Say, hey, I gotta ask you, you seem to be a lot more nervous than normal. Like, you seem to be a lot more stressed than I normally know you to be. What do I need to know here, right? And it turns out that he's like, honestly, Bill, I don't even care so much about the putting the granite in, or how much I get for the home. The main concern I got is paying this loan back so I don't get penalized, right? And so you got to make sure that you're dealing with the right topic. Does that make sense? So there's never, you can't ask too many questions. Okay, you really can't. If you notice something that's a little off, just say, hey, something feels a little off. Something I need to know about, right?
Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned, like, does anybody have anything to share? And I almost said, yeah, I had my first getting yelled at session, and I survived. And actually, I remained pretty calm, and a lot of that was, I was being yelled at because they were anxious, and they were having feelings and they were projecting them onto me, if that makes sense. So whatever their reality was, they were, they were taking it out on me. And even though I could feel my heart beating and racing, and I didn't, it's uncomfortable to experience somebody projecting their anger and anxiety at you. I also remained very calm and was, of course, there are a few people involved in this conversation. So it was with one individual in person, not the actual homeowner, but somebody kind of related. And it's kind of like almost like if a new home buyer's father is, at inspection and saying, hey, what about this? And what about that? It's almost like the flying, the fly in the room, like, get away, like you're not really involved in this transaction, but yet you're right in front of me and bringing all of this to me, and I have to deal with it. So, so I was able to be calm, and I understand it's using a lot of psychology, and a lot of times, and we talk about mirroring the energy. Well, in this case, you can't do that when somebody's yelling at you or upset. You can't, obviously you don't want to yell back.
Right.
You want to bring it down. And so I was like, I understand your frustration, and
Acknowledge their behavior. Exactly.
acknowledge it, but also hold your line. But this is, if you want to sell the house, you have two options. So we can do this at a lower price, or we can do this you can get a better return if you do this.
Oftentimes when they're being emotional, you need to be logical. If you're being logical, you need to sometimes bring back the emotion. Well, the price per square foot of this is off by 75 cents, and that's why I won't sell for this price, right? So is it more important to net 403 instead of 404 and let your grandchildren have another summer without their grandmother in California? Because isn't that the most important thing? Isn't that why you called me in the first place? Right? So sometimes when they're being too logical, you got to introduce emotion, and vice versa. Right. One thing, this is probably somewhat inappropriate to say, but I'll go ahead and say it anyway. I learned a great line with my wife a year or two ago, and sometimes so she'll have a thing, right, something that's bothering her, and sometimes I've kind of worn it out a little bit, but I used to say, so would you like me to feel this or fix this, right? Because sometimes they don't want it fixed, they just want to talk, right? And I'm not saying they, like all women or something like that. I'm saying basically anybody that you're interacting with. Sometimes they just want to get it off of their shoulders and they need somebody to listen. And then once they've expressed it, then they have this different calmness around them. And then you can go back to potentially fixing it. So I let this guy let me have it for 10 or 15 minutes yesterday. And then at the end I said, so it kind of sounds like we just need to do this and this and this, and everything will be fine. And he's like, yeah. But if I was combative from the very beginning, we would have never gotten there. Does that make sense? I got to tell you guys, I'm glad you brought up the word psychology. This business is literally like 1% about houses and 99% about dealing with people.
Which is what makes it so interesting.
That's right. And every situation is different. Every person is different. But ultimately, people want to be right and look good. So sometimes you just got to let them say whatever they're going to say, right? And let it come off of their chest. Yes, ma'am.
So I was at a listing appointment last night, and this is somebody I've been working with, and she wanted to buy initially, and then I was checking in. I was like, "Are you sure you don't want to sell first?" because we can't find anything for 150. And she was like, well, I think I convinced my husband to sell, because she's the one who owns it. And I was like, okay, well, how about, she pulled a fast one on me. She said, I have somebody coming out to look at it tomorrow or this week. And I was like, I got to get in there before this, whoever that is, So I was like, oh, I can be there tomorrow morning. And she wasn't really responsive. And I was like, when works for you? Tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow mid-morning. And it ended up being last night. But to your point about psychology, I noticed when we are talking, and I think this is something that we have to train ourselves to do. This is just kind of the way I am. I pay attention, and it just kind of like, I tend to feel like what is going on around me. It's just part of my personality type. I'm an ENFP, and I just kind of like feel the tone. And so I was talking to her, and I just noticed some facial expressions, and she was just, I was like, and I just kind of stopped, and I was like, so how are you feeling right now? Like, what's going on?
Yes.
What are you thinking? What are you feeling at this point right now? And she's like, well, my husband doesn't really want to sell, and I want to sell. And, anyway, so it led into a conversation, like you break through. It allows you to get to the heart of the matter and connect.
And by the way, you're only going to be really good at that if you have not practiced and internalized all the things that you need to say in a variety of different situations, which is another way of saying scripts and dialogues, right? So that you can not be focused on how you're going to put together your response instead of listening. And you can actually be listening, so you can notice those little nuances in the way their eyes move, or the way their body moves, or whether they're seemingly distracted, and these kind of things, right? Okay, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Was that helpful? Does that kind of help you understand how important it is to really understand kind of the unspoken, right? We cannot not communicate, right? So when you're talking to somebody, they're communicating back, even though words are not coming out of their mouth. Does that make sense? They're either telling you they're engaged, or they're telling you that they're not engaged. And so checking in with them and saying, hey, what are you feeling, right? Tell me a little bit about what was on your mind when I said what I said, right? Candace, you want to add anything to that?
I think that's exactly right. I think the best thing we can do in any time we're with a client is to not think about ourselves so much, but like you said, have the scripts and dialogues down, so that we can really focus and watch what's going on, watch, listen, and like Corey said, feel what's going on, because that's how we're going to make a breakthrough, and that's how we're going to engage with somebody, and how we're going to understand how we can help them.
Right. And by the way, that's also how you earn clients for life, right? Because when you develop those relationships and they feel like you are very in tune with them, number one, it leads to trust a lot faster, and they're confident in your ability. They're comfortable in your surroundings. And what I've always said is they wouldn't dare make a real estate decision without your consult, right? They're not going to go to Zillow to make real estate decisions. They're going to come to you and say, hey, I'm about to make a real estate decision. I just wanted to run it by you first. Do you have a moment? You see what I'm saying? Okay, so speaking about conversations, let's talk about commission for a second. Does anyone want to share? I'm going to offer a couple of ideas on rebuttals for commission objections, but does anyone want to share any responses they've had, or scripts or objection handling that they've done that has protected a commission? Anyone like kind of have a go-to? Greta,
I've used the one that you taught us about. They're like, I've got so and so who'll do it for this, and I'm like, well, I just know that the brokerage firm generally takes 1. And then I know my expenses are spent, advertising and promoting your property are about 1%. And that leaves me 1% to live on and pay my taxes. So if Joe X is going to do it for less, where do you think he's going to take that money from?
Right. Well, he's definitely not going to take it from his broker because he's not allowed to do that.
Right.
Right. And most likely he's not going to take it from him and his family because his family's got to eat, right? So I guess that only leaves one place. Right? Don't get uncomfortable with the silence, right? Let them be the ones that get uncomfortable with the silence. Awesome. Great job, Greta. Who else? What's your go-to response for that?
I just want to add that, Greta, that was awesome what you just said. And there's also a saying in negotiation that the first person who speaks loses.
Right.
Bill, you probably know about this. You can probably speak about that.
Yeah, it's kind of what I was just alluding to, the silence, right? If somebody says, will you lower the commission? And I say, no, I will not lower the commission. There's going to be a little bit of silence. And if I'm the first one to crack and I'm like, but for you, I would consider it, right? I'm probably going to lose, right? Or if they break first after that awkward extended silence and they say, okay, well, I just thought I'd ask, right? And then you just continue to move forward. So that definitely, Corey, that is absolutely true. Okay. I'm going to just take a picture of this piece right here. I wanted to put it out there earlier this morning, but this is a sheet that we were given a couple of days ago for our Roswell production as compared to the market at large. Okay, so let me give you an example. Number one, it's really important to understand how your results are different than the results of your competitors. Okay, because at the end of the day, that's really all that matters, right? The results are really going to dictate the experience. If I'm helping somebody sell their home and they get just clobbered left and right and they feel like they got beat up at the negotiation table and they netted less money than they wanted, it's not going to be a great experience. If we kind of butt heads all the experience, but we sell the home for more than they ever dreamed they would, when I say, how was the experience? They're gonna be like, it was awesome. I netted 40 grand more than I expected. They're not gonna say, well, me and my agent butted heads a couple of times. You see what I'm saying? So more often than not, they're interested in the results. Okay, so this will show you how some of the results are different, right? So listings taken, for example, year to date, the market is down 12.6%. Our office is up 34.5%. Okay. Total closed units, the market is up 2.7%. We're up 21.5%. Right. Median list price to sales price ratio, the market is up. Hang on one second. Or I'm sorry, median days on the market, the market itself is down 65.3%. We are down 61%, right? So if you can share the details with your customer, your prospect, about how you outperform your competition, then the conversation goes towards results rather than fees. Make sense? So here's an example of some scripts with respect to commission handling. And Candace, feel free to chime in if there's anything, of course, that you'd like to share. Okay, so so let's say somebody asked me to cut my commission. Okay, the first thing that you always want to do when you're faced with an objection of any kind is to acknowledge their objection, right? So you might say something like, "That's a great question," right? That's a great question. Don't make them feel stupid for asking the question. Right? That's a great question. I don't cut my commission. May I explain to you why? So what are they going to say to that? May I explain to you why? What is their answer going to be?
gonna be yes.
It's going to be yes. Yes. Okay. When somebody says yes to you, that feels a lot different when they say no, right? When you start saying no, you remember how we said we're on the same side of the table as the seller? The second you start fighting with them, they start questioning that, right? So you want them to start agreeing with you. You ever heard like these, kind of smaller closes along the way, right? It's important to you that we have digital marketing in our marketing package. Is that right? Yes. Okay. Let me show you what I do, right? It's important that you sell your home in the least amount of time, right? Okay. Let me show you how my stats are different than the other agents that you could hire, right? So you're getting them to agree to certain things along the way, so that the final close is just a formality, right? It's expected. Okay. So you could say, that's a great question. I don't discount my commission. Can I share with you why? Right. And I got this from a coach that I followed for a long, long time, Kevin Ward online. And he says, because I don't discount my result. Right. So let's examine those wording, can't talk today, those words for a second. Okay. So they talked about cutting commission, and you use the word discount. So what does discount actually mean to you guys? When you hear the word discount, what do you think?
Like it's not top of the line. It's like a
Right,
low
it's cheaper
level.
quality.
Great. Tawantis, did you want to add something?
No, I was actually going on same lines as Donna, so that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, so they use the word cut because they're just speaking their heart, right? And they're trying to maximize their dollars, quite frankly, understandably. Then we shift the wording to discount. Discount puts a whole different thought out there, right? I don't discount my services because I don't discount my results. Can I share with you how we are outperforming our competition, right? And you have some stats there to back it up, right? Does that make sense? So one of the other things that we teach you to do is to isolate the objection. So you might say something like, before we explore commission, is that the only concern that you have at this point before getting started working together? Right? And they'll say, yes, I like you, you're the guy, I'm just not comfortable with the commission right now. Then you know that all you got to do is overcome the commission language and you're good. Does that make sense? But if you don't isolate the objection and you don't ask them one more time to list any other issues they have, then you might be flawless at handling the commission objection, but then they got additional problems that you got to navigate as well. Does that make sense? So we isolate the objection. Before we explore commission, is that the only concern you have at this point before you hire me to sell your house? Right? I threw in an embedded command there, what's called an embedded command, hire me, right? Slight pause before hire, slight pause after me, right? To slight pause, sell your home. Not sell your home, it's a downswing, sell your home, slight pause. Make sense? So I'm speaking directly to the subconscious. Sell your home, list with me, get started, sign the paperwork. Does that make sense? I know it sounds hokey pokey, but this is how it works. Okay. Now, I always like asking questions rather than making statements, right? So you might say, is there anything about that is concerning to you that they were so quick to cut their commission? It's a pretty powerful one. What do you think about that? Right? Aubrey likes to use the line that's like, some agents do cut their commission and that's because they should. May I explain? Right? If somebody's getting discount results, then they shouldn't get full price. They should get their service should be discounted. Does that make sense? In the absence of value, price is the determining factor. So when somebody is bringing up commission in the first place, what they're telling you is they're unclear about all the value that you deliver, right? And most likely, they're a little unclear about how you're going to protect them. Does that make sense? So is there anything about that that's concerning to you that they were so quick to cut their commission? And they say, yeah, maybe, what should I be concerned about? Well, gosh, if they were that quick to cut their commission, how firm and confident do you think they're going to be when it comes to negotiating your equity? Right? So don't say, well, if they were so quick to cut their commission, they're going to give away your equity. Say, that's a statement, and it makes them feel like they're wrong. Instead, phrase it as a question, which is, what gives you the confidence that they'd fight for your commission if they aren't even willing to fight for their own? I'm sorry, what gives you the confidence? Hang on. That's actually a little misprint. What gives you the confidence that they'd fight for your equity if they aren't even willing to fight for their own? And that forces them to answer the question rather than receive your blunt, in your face response that doesn't even feel like a partnership. What do you guys hear there?
It's pretty blunt, but that makes sense.
Well, well, first of all, I think that they're hiring you. Let me also tell you something, probably one of the most important lessons I learned in one of the bolds I took, which is these people are not hiring you to be their friend. They don't need any more friends, and you don't need any more friends either. Okay, they're hiring you to get the job done. Okay, just get the job done and do it right. Right? So if somebody were to say to me, and I've had somebody say this to me, multiple people say this to me, say, gosh, Bill, you're kind of aggressive, like you're kind of being a bit assertive. Say, I'm confused. I'm being hired to protect you. You do want an assertive agent, right? Right? And you say it in a way that they're like, well, why in the world would you say no to this? Of course you want an assertive agent. I don't believe you're hiring me to tell you everything you want to hear. I believe you're hiring me to get results. And this is the way I get results, is by fighting for you. Right? Now, the undercurrent to everything I'm saying here should tell you most of this revolves around confidence, right? So if you have a mediocre marketing plan, or you don't even have one, or you don't really understand how to protect a seller, or you don't really know the marketplace, then you might have a little apprehension speaking this way. So the takeaway for you should be, how do I get better? Right? How do I practice my presentations more? How do I study the market more? How do I practice these scripts more? Because your confidence is going to be what makes somebody say, you're right. What is it, 7%? Yes, ma'am, 7%. You see what I'm saying? Okay, let's repeat that. So what gives you the confidence that they'd fight for your equity if they're not even willing to fight for their own? And you say it in a way you're like, it's so shocking to me. I'm just so unclear about why this happens. Like, you don't say, what gives you the confidence that they'd fight for your commission if they're not willing to fight for their own? You say, gosh, I'm just so curious. Like, what gives you the confidence that they're going to fight for your equity if they're not even willing to protect their own? And that forces them to have to say, you know, I never thought about it that way. Right? So I assume that you're not looking for discounted results. Is that correct? Right? So number one, you're asking questions. Number two, that's what's called a tie down, right? A lot of times I say right, or does that make sense? Or do you agree with this? Or don't you agree, or something of that nature, right? So a lot of times what you end up getting discounted results if you pay a discounted fee. Would you agree with that? And I'm assuming you don't want discounted results. Is that correct? Okay. So you ready to get started? Right? Because after you've cleared the objection, it's time for another close. Ready to get started? Well, yeah, you make a lot of sense, Bill, but I'm just trying to save all this money. Say, great. So let me ask you another question. The agent that said they were going to cut their commission from 3% to 2%, did they happen to share their stats with you? Like the number of days on the market that they have, or what their average list price to sales price ratio is, or anything like that, right? Do they happen to share that with you? Right? Again, make them answer and say, well, no. Well, let me ask you a question. Do you think if they were like outperforming the market, they probably would have shared that with you? Well, yeah, probably. Right. So again, discounted fee is oftentimes going to result in discounted results. Right. Now, you mentioned to me that you want to get to California so you can spend the summer with your grandkids and take the most dollars to California. Is that still correct? Well, yeah. So great. Ready? Let's get started. Right? Now, if you speak that way with no confidence, it's not going to work. Does that make sense? Okay, does anyone think that what I've taught or shared today is rude or inappropriate or manipulative or something like that? No?
The way you made it sound, I mean, it just sounds really natural. So I get it. When you say you have to speak with confidence and you get that confidence through practicing, I've noticed that like with me and Ebony, we've been really working on the same script for a while. It's a FSBO script. And now it just comes so much more naturally. And we're able to work in other things like the solutions like knock and homeward and Keller offers and that sort of thing, because we're more confident about just kind of the basic script that we've been practicing. But you made that sound really natural. When we first read it on the paper, it just sounds so scripted. But with practice, I see how it can sound just natural, like it's just coming from your heart.
Right. And by the way, the assumption here is that your goals are in alignment with their goals, right? Hey, you want to make the most amount of money so you can be with your grandkids in California. I'm with you. I work every day to protect my sellers and to help them net the most dollars possible and to help them build wealth and to help them achieve their goals. So we are on the same team here. Make sense? And if they start objecting to you, what they're telling you is they're not all that confident that you're on the same team. So you may have to remind them every once in a while. Does that make sense? Okay. Who else wants to share something? Who else learned something today?
I learned that I need to build my confidence.
Yeah. So can I coach you on that for a second?
Sure.
Okay. So when we have an awareness about something, we've got momentum, right? So the second you have momentum, we got to capitalize on the momentum, which means that Michael, that thought or that realization came into your mind because it's supposed to come into your mind. And then what you're supposed to do with that is to say, okay, well, how do I gain confidence? Okay, I gain confidence by every day from 7:45 to 8 o'clock, I study this script and I read it over and over again. And I'm going to gain confidence by having an accountability partner, and I'm tired of not having one. So today I'm going to find one, right? Let's take action. I'm not saying you do or don't. I'm speaking kind of globally here, right? So if you have a realization that you're weak in a particular area, what are we going to do about it? Right? What action are we going to take today so that tomorrow you're a little bit more confident, right? You're not going to sound, I'm not trying to brag here. I've just said this 1,000 trillion times, right? You're not going to sound like me tomorrow, but you'll sound better than you sound today, tomorrow. If it finds itself a spot in your calendar, and if you respect that spot, right? And you feel like you are succeeding so slowly that you're failing, but it's actually not that at all. What's happening is you're just taking a little bite of the elephant every single day. And eventually you look up and the elephant's gone and you know exactly how to deal with people. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, any other thoughts or questions? All right, let me do a little bit of review with you guys. So a couple of cool things that are happening. Today at 11 o'clock is the Growth Mastermind in this room. It's designed for agents that are about 4 units or more per year. Come back and hang out with me from 11 to 12 today in this room. We'll talk about tracking. From 12:30 to 1:30, I'm going to be doing a session in this room on the 411. Okay. And then tomorrow from 12 to 1 in Candace's room will be the launch mastermind. Okay. Any burning emergencies right now?
That 11 o'clock one, that'll be recorded, right? Because I have a CE class.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yes. Can I give you guys, I shouldn't say this, but I'll say it anyway. Can I give you a tip on CE classes? Georgia MLS has a free CE catalog. There's like probably 50 different options. And should I say this? Okay, I'll say it. I took a 3-hour CE in 21 minutes. Okay, that's pretty good, isn't it, Tawantis?
Okay, how did you do that?
You go on georgiamls.com. Here, let me pull it up. And that way, I'm not saying don't sit in the class for 3 hours. I'm just saying you can do it digitally and get the same credit and learn similar stuff and stuff that's important to you and valuable to you when you want it, right? So
They don't have you be on the webcam to show that you're there.
they haven't figured that part out, I guess. Okay, so you go to georgiamls.com and you go to online CE. Okay, and look at all these classes that are available here. Anti-discrimination, appraisers in green residential buildings, home inspections, hazardous control things, ethics, license law, pricing, advertising, disclosure, broker management, leading and communicating effectively, pre-qualifying your buyers, property management, blah, 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 blah. All these are free. Okay, so you should never pay for CE classes. Okay, and you can get it done, you know, in the middle of the night if you want. Make sense?
Yep.
All right, you guys, have a wonderful day.
Thank you.